Shri Agasthyaya Namaha. Om Shri Agasthyaya Namaha.
Om Shri Agasthiyar Vazhipaadu. Today we'll start with Buddha's message. Sage Agastya says, Om Shakti. Everyone knows the truth that we are formed in the womb of a mother, and after 10 months, we are born as a small baby. Because we were given life and because we eat, the body is nurtured and we grow up. This is a known fact. Growing up, we learn and understand about many things through our parents and those around us, and know that different situations occur in our life. Once we reach a certain age, we get married, enjoy the pleasures of conjugal life, and then undergoing difficulties and worries, some look at God and ask such a question. We also see some who are disgusted with life and naturally ask the question, why was I born? Is this what life is all about? So, what is life then? The current idea is life is about eating, sleeping, getting involved in different actions, enjoying materials, and enjoying nature. Wanting more and more happiness, some create an inner conflict within and outside themselves all their life. Where does this happiness end? Is it possible for this happiness to reach a limit? These could be either desires or questions that arise in one's heart.
Thank you, Sumati, sister. This is a very important thing again. And if you look at everybody around us, let's take a look at all the great celebrities of the world. We have heard about a lot of great people, like in the sense, very famous people, like especially film actors and stuff. You know, they have everything they want. They're famous, they have money, they have looks, they have homes and cars, and there is no limit to what they can have. Yet, we see they commit suicide. Many of them commit suicide. Why is that? Why is there dissatisfaction even with people who are very, very advanced in terms of material pleasures, material gains? And then we have some great people, like, we have one of the Beatles stars, singers, and Shri Ravi Shankar and others who also have all this, but then they turn towards the end of their life to God. We have we had the CEO of one of the famous software companies in America, who always used to carry autobiography of a yogi with him, who, when he died, said that everybody who comes to the funeral should have a copy of autobiography of a yogi. So basically, he had turned to God. So did all these others, a few people that we have heard about that turned to God, and they started seeking it. And I see that more and more, that kind of a trend in the current world, that people who are very famous, even actors like Jim Carrey in America, who used to be just, a comedy actor, they're all now talking about a higher purpose in life. What is the reason behind life? So that seeking has begun. So the seeking is what happens when there is either pain or dissatisfaction with everything that people have. So that is the beginning of the spiritual path.
Thank you, Sister Ranu. So, what is the inherent idea that comes forth when one is suffering? Alas, I am unable to bear this severe condition. The objective in such a man is focused on how to get rid of his suffering. However, the one who is enjoying money, materials, and pleasures does not have this question. For such a man, only suffering is the way to arrive at these questions.
Now again,
We have, yeah,
see, here he says the objective in such a man is focus on how to get rid of suffering. So now the trend is this. People want immediate relief for suffering. So what do? They go to astrologers, they go to people who predict things, and they say, hey, give me some pariharam, give me some resolution, so I can go and offer some puja, or I can go and do these things and get rid of my karmas. Do karmas really get rid of, can we really get rid of karmas that way? My thought is this. It is like putting a band-aid on a wound without understanding the reason the wound occurs. So it's, if say, for example, somebody falls and then they have a wound. This is just, when we go and try to get pariharams, we are just trying to wash the wound, put something on it and heal it, but we fall again and again. So in order to make sure that we don't fall again, so we don't cause the wound again, we need knowledge. We need knowledge of why creation, why we were born, what causes all the suffering, why do we undergo what we undergo. And that information, that knowledge is what Agasthiyar Vazhipaadu contains. So once we know all that, then we can start at making sure that wound doesn't occur. We remove suffering from the very roots, because jnana replaces our behavior, bad behavior or things that actually bring on these karmas on us, others. So that is what Agastya is saying in this particular sentence, which is we need to understand the root of suffering before we can go and put a change, so as we can change ourselves, and by changing ourselves, we'll lead a righteous life, which brings in less and less suffering because we are no longer creating more karma. So we finish off the karmas and continue to walk on the path of spirituality and find liberation.
yeah. So we have read in history about the great ruler Siddhartha. Such a question arose even in him, even though he had no want in life. He had as much as he wanted of everything when he wanted it, yet he did not have peace. It is that state of mind that caused him to ask these questions. Why is man born? Why does the body undergo diseases? Why does he suffer from pain in the body? When the man grows old, he reaches a stage where even if he gets everything, he is no longer able to enjoy these things because of his physical situation. What does all this mean? Why does one who takes birth and lives, why does one who takes birth and lives, birth, death, rebirth, why does this cycle that is antithetical to eternal peace occur? Siddhartha asked this big question not only for himself, so that it would be a guide for all the people who are created by God. With a determination to get a complete answer, he left his kingdom, left his sleeping wife, and went very far. Sat under a tree, closed his eyes, and sat in meditation for a long time to find the answer. Normally, meditation is sitting without thinking of anything and arriving at a state of void, and then forgetting oneself and remaining in a state of samadhi for a very long time. The state of meditation that Siddhartha had that day was different from this. He had a strong question in his heart, and on the other hand, he had the determination to know the solution for this question. To this, Siddhartha, who did not give any attention to rain, wind, or heat, who crossed the levels of hunger and thirst, and sitting in one state, forgetting the world around him, remained in deep meditation. One day, a light was born. Darkness was removed. That is the day he was enlightened, and understanding this, when he started preaching this to others, people christened Siddhartha Buddha.
That
Siddhartha,
that
yeah,
is how Buddha or Siddhartha became Buddha and gained enlightenment. He was able to sit in one place, forget about hunger, thirst, conquer all those things and reach the state of enlightenment. But however, that is not possible for all of us who are uh, not yet at the level of having that kind of willpower. We still, live in families. We live in a modern world that demands a lot of us. So how can we follow this path? So Agasthya in Vazhipaadu says, you don't have to do that. You can remain in society, you can remain in the world, be a family person, fulfill your duties, but start withdrawing internally. So how do you start withdrawing internally from the actions that you're performing? From, it's not being, completely detached, not interested. It is about being, like they say in the Gita, offer everything to Krishna. So offer everything to God. Whatever you're doing, do it as a duty, with willingness, with full attention. But know that all this is just part of going through life. But beyond that, understand the questions that Buddha was asking and find that answer. Find that answer, and we can do that so very easily with Vazhipaadu because we can read what Agastya has given in the book, in the discourses, and understand why we are born, what is the purpose. And once when we understand all this, then we start walking on the path of righteousness, which is the very foundation of spiritual life. So we cannot be
Yeah.
like Siddhartha, but we can still be yogi.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you, Sister Anu. Siddhartha, who was a man experiencing pleasure, turned into a yogi. He understood that it is in the state of desire and in experiencing that desire, suffering comes. For suffering is mixed with pleasure. There is no limit to desire. This Mahayogi understood that when one experiences too much, then relevant disease and suffering must also be experienced. That is what he taught others too. He understood that peace lies in saying no to pleasures of materials and keeping away from such things.
Now again,
Final, yeah,
Appa Agastya keeps talking about this in Vazhipaadu. He says there is nothing wrong in experiencing pleasure, but when and how and the limit is important. So age appropriate, situation appropriate, socially acceptable, dharmic pleasures are okay. A husband and wife living together, having a conjugal life is okay. So he says it's okay to go eat something to nourish the body, but again at a limit. So pleasure when it is given to you, it's okay to enjoy it, but do not seek excessive pleasure. Do not seek to find pleasure beyond righteous means. Because once we start doing that, then we start accruing karma, which leads to suffering. So understanding what is the right type of pleasure, but not getting too attached to that pleasure also is important. So, you have some material in your hands, and if you lose it, let it go. It's okay. It's not going to mean anything in the long run. So to be able to understand, not own the pleasure, but to kind of experience it and letting it go is what Agasthya says in this.
yeah. Finally, he also preached to the world that man should strive to attain liberation instead of another birth. Knowledge that can be understood even by the ordinary man has been put together in the big book of Bodhidharma that has been given to all of us. Enjoying things only to the extent they must be enjoyed, and then removing the desire to experience more, and without continuing to search for things that give the short term pleasure, walking on the path of righteousness without doing bad to others and helping others to the extent one can, spreading love and righteousness in the world. This is what Siddhartha is asking all of us to do.
There, in this one paragraph, Appa has given the gist of the entire, idea of what a spiritual life should be based on. Taking an example of Siddhartha, he's told us enjoying things only to the extent they must be enjoyed, removing the desire to experience more, without continuing to search for things that give short term pleasure. Again, the idea is short term pleasure. Walking on the path of righteousness, very important in spiritual life, without doing bad to others. Again, being dharmic means non-violence, not harming others, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. And then helping as much as we can and spread love and righteousness. Once we start doing this, we are already on the path of spirituality, and this becomes spirituality, then becomes a way of life. It is not just about meditation and yogic practices and mantras, but spirituality is a way of life, and it is based on dharma.
So, yeah, with that, we come to the end of Siddhartha's message and his questioning. We now will see increase in population. Anuradha asks, if God created human beings, why is population increasing? Gajraj Swamigal says, my father Mahamuni, I place this question at your feet. I request you to enlighten us about this issue. Sage Agastya says, daughter, you have posed a question to me on behalf of others who have asked you about this. You have a confusion here. You are trying to link the gradual loss of or disappearance of other souls and increase in the population of human souls. The logic seems to be lying on the issue of statistics. It is as if a certain number of souls have been created on the earth, and you presume that mathematically the sum total of souls is the same, except those human souls who have attained salvation. This is not true. You cannot apply statistics in respect to God's creation.
This, Sister Sumati, is one of the most important piece of knowledge that Appa Agastya has given, because this is something that not only have I heard that once when I actually asked this question from one of my friends, but this is a question that I see occurring in a lot of spiritual aspirants as well as general population. Why is the population increasing? If God created, souls, then if n number of people die, then n number of people should be, away from the earth, then there should be no more of those souls. All this confusion is there. So Appa Agastya is giving us very important knowledge on why the population continues to increase in this world, and we will listen to what he says.
Yeah. So Sage Agastya continues. We have already told you that souls were the products of the expansion of the supreme consciousness, which you call Parabrahman. We cannot apply the known measurements applied in science and technology to this. It is simple. The present science is unable to measure or see the infinite, all-pervading divine energy. Only known objects of matter and energy can be measured and interpreted in terms of science. Spirituality is beyond known form of science. To give you some examples, in scientific terms, you cannot imagine or describe where the universe ends. That is why a simple word called Maya is used in spiritual language. Therefore, there is no equation of addition or deletion regarding the number of souls in the universe. This is what happens. The ever-expanding Parabrahman expels from it a higher form of subtle energy called soul. It is called Jivatman, or the individual soul. The soul is present in living and non-living objects. This is what is described in poetry as God is hidden in rocks, thorns, you and me. Meaning, God, which is equated to soul, is present in every form of living and non-living objects. Once again, we express that God is omnipresent. Here, the word God also implies the unit of soul liberated from Paramatman, or the Absolute. I would suggest that millions of souls continuously liberated from the Parabrahman or the Absolute are still waiting to acquire a body.
Very
You can
important
compare.
again.
Yeah,
Very, very
yeah.
important. This is what he says is We cannot say, hey, creation occurred and it's over. No, according to Agastya in Vazhipaadu, creation is a continuous process, which means souls continue to be emitted from Parabrahma and continue to wait to be born as human beings or, manifest in the physical realm. And why do we manifest? We manifest because of the very reason of creation, which is expression and experience. So we're going to learn about this much later in Vazhipaadu, but that is one of the reasons we are born in this world. And that is why when the greatest of yogis, the jnanis, talk about good and bad, they say there is no good and bad. Even the most evil things that we see in the world, which is very hard for us to accept, say, for example, somebody killing a child or doing some bad things to a child or hurting an innocent animal, is still in the higher realms of a jnani, not considered good or bad, because you go beyond the stage of good and bad when you realize that everything is experience, everything is an expression. But for those of us who are still not at that level, we still have to continue to understand dharma and practice it and go through it. But another important thing when we are talking about this is the importance of being born as a human. There are so many souls out there still waiting to get an opportunity to be born as a human. And we who have a human body, who have been born as humans, must understand what a great gift we have in the ability to express and experience through this vehicle. If you're born as animals, we don't have the faculty of intellect or wisdom, which is very, very specific to the human birth. So we should not waste this human birth. Once we understand how important, how blessed we are to be born as humans, we must make every use of every moment to change, purify, and return to the divine beings we are. So all this is again contained in Vazhipaadu.
So you can compare this to a cloud. You do not know when and how much the water drops on the earth in the form of rain. The raindrops also drop or fall outside the earth. Therefore, this planet is not the only planet where Atman takes the form of human bodies.
Once again, Agastya is confirming something that a lot of scientists of today are trying to find, whether there is life in other planets. So he's saying, yes. So the universe that we see or science has discovered is able to show us is a very minute part of universe as Agastya or Gnani, the yogis are able to see. So he says, and he's confirming here, there are other planets, other universes where this creation of life, death, the cycle of life and birth also continues. So this is again a very significant revelation.
In the cosmic creation, the purest form of Atman or the original Atman may acquire any kind of body and not necessarily only the human body. It is also possible that cyclical transformation of Atman can occur. For example, Puranas have it that gods and demons alike were born on the earth and took the shape of a human being. Later, they went back to their original form. This also accounts for many avatars. The Avatara Purushas lived like ordinary human beings. After finishing their duties, they went back to their original status. You also have legends where a celestial body is punished and made to be reborn as an animal. You have the story of Ahalya, who was converted to a stone. Therefore, the human soul can assume other bodies and remain as a stone, animal, or a planet. A plant, a spirit, or a god, depending upon which tattva is predominant in it. Tattva means the innate nature. So, depending on the karma phala, the human body ends up in different incarnations.
So once again, this particular chapter has revelation after revelation after revelation, and so a very very higher advanced person may be able to explain this a lot more. Each sentence can actually become a thesis for somebody who knows what Agastya is talking about. But let us try to understand a little bit of what he means. What he is saying is this common idea that we have, that once you become a human being, you cannot go back or in evolution or evolution in the modern accepted idea of animals, birds, animals, and all that to human being is not linear. He says it is possible that we can a soul born as a human being, because of the predominant nature, it can go back to being an animal, like maybe somebody who is so slovenly in their life can actually turn into, for example, a pig. Who knows? We don't know. So that's one of the reasons, when we are talking about hurting another life form, we want to be very, very careful, because we have to consider everything as our brothers and sisters, souls in the universe. And that is why even St. Francis, talks to animals and birds as brother wolf, brother bird, or sister bird. So we must remember this very important thing that Agastya is saying. So our Puranas, if you take the story of Ahalya that Agastya is talking about, is giving us clues in all this. So we cannot understand Puranas just at the level of looking at it as a story. The Puranas were given because they were easy to understand and passed on, but they contain all these great universal truths or spiritual truths. Now, I do see that we are actually running out of time. So if anybody else has anything to add, it will be great. And thank you, Sister Veena, Sister Geeta, and Brother Siddharth for joining us. We will have to, stop this and continue this in the next reading. Sister Sumati, any thoughts on what we have read so far? Or in the group?
Yeah, as God says, it is, little bit confusing. We cannot fix or, put it in the form of statistics, the increase in population. So we are ordinary mortals. The only thing that we have understood is, follow the righteous path and live within your limits. Don't harm any other human being or any other living thing. I think that should, if each one of us tread this path or follow these principles, then the world will be a better place to live in.
Definitely. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we end, we will do what we always do, which is we will go into meditation. I'll, chant, and then we will turn off the video and go into meditation. But before we end, again, thank you all for coming. But remember these things. Every day when you meditate, Agastya says, always have one designated spot, because the energy of that spot will continue to expand and increase. And the more and more you sit in the same spot, the easier it becomes to meditate. Sit on something which is made of natural material, natural like cotton, silk, wool, or wood, anything that is natural. He says that is very important in meditation. So let us try to do that. Even if it's a small corner in a house, let it be a place where we do not perform any other activities, because all activities have some kind of energy and that can affect that area. So when we sit down, let us remember to always keep our spine erect, because as his brother Kiran has explained in one of the videos that we just recently released, we have chakras, energy centers in our body, and we have the kundalini, the serpent, force at the base of the spine. And the whole idea of meditation is, as we meditate, that it will rise up, and as it rises up, it will activate each chakra, and our consciousness starts expanding until we reach the Sahasrara, which would lead us to final liberation, which is a long process, but we can begin, and it's never too late to begin that. And then we always keep our eyes closed and eyes focused on the area between the two eyebrows, because that is the place of the arched chakra, which is the seat of knowledge. So if you read the Siddha Principles, the book Agastya, the Siddha Principles, you'll see how Agastya has explained that there are three chakras where knowledge enters. But right now we will focus on the Ajna chakra. And then we will chant the mantra that Appa has given us. And when thoughts arise, let it go. Don't follow the thoughts. And for those few minutes, it doesn't matter whether we do it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, let us forget the world. The world will still be waiting. Our chores will still be waiting. Our calls will still be waiting. For that 10, 15 minutes, it is our time. And slowly increase the time as you become comfortable. And do this every day at the same time. Brother Kiran cannot join us for these events because he does his sadhana between 6 to 8 every day. Nothing changes. Nothing will stop him from doing that. So we have to have that kind of a routine established that will make it easier for us to walk on this path. Now that we know that Agastya has given us this beautiful, powerful Sri Agastya Panchakshari Maha Mantra, which combines the principles of Shiva and Shakti, the absolute and the creative principles, let us chant that. And somebody asked us, how do you chant it? Do you chant it loudly? Do you chant it softly? I would suggest start chanting it loudly, slowly taper off, and let it continue in your mind. And we are still eagerly waiting for the chanting of the mantra by Sister Bhavani Ramamurthy in for 108 times, so that it can continue to play in the background like music, and the chant continues to become part of us, our consciousness, because this is a very powerful chant. So I will start chanting. Everybody, please close your eyes, sit straight, and the Zoom meeting will end on its own. In fact, you can also end it, but continue meditation as long as you can, and reflect on everything we have learned today. Om Anai Imatli Ushisva Evari Oyashri Om Shri Agasthiyar Mahamuni Prabhuve Namaha.